If that ain't the most ominous ending of an episode ever. We have a new batch of Inquisitors showing up. Novak's going to be training them, and I know for a fact they're going to take down Novak. I already have this theory going on that eventually Yolanta's going to get involved with all this situation, and Novak's going to get word of it, and he's going to want to protect his daughter. And then, yes, now we have two new Inquisitors that are joining Novak. They're going to probably see that Novak is turning against the church, and they're going to take him down. That's where I'm kind of feeling this is going to go. We'll see, though. We'll see. Novak is like a mercenary and everything, and these are just people of the cloth. So I don't know how they can take him down besides stabbing him back at some point, but we'll see. We'll see. But no, episode 10 of Orb. What a fantastic episode. This is like one of those series that, as I discuss it with other people, like we even have a channel on our Discord, so go make sure to check that out if you are a big fan of this series. Just talking to people about this series it just makes me love it even more. I love how this is type one of those series where, unless you kind of think of it from the perspective of the people at the time, it's hard to really get a sense of what people's driving forces is. And I think with this episode, it cemented me even more how fascinating Badeni is as a character. I mean, obviously, in this episode, we see him say a very inappropriate thing, which is the idea of keeping knowledge away from reading and writing, specifically away from commoners. And it seems like a really mean thing to say, but in the mindset of who Badeni is as a character, it makes perfect sense. And then add on to that with his scars in this episode. It all kind of clicks together, as this is the way that he kind of thinks. He's a man of the cloth, but he's also somebody that is trying to save the church by revealing the errors in their thought processes. He doesn't like lies. He doesn't like falsities. This is something that, I mean, if you think back, his introduction is literally him harming himself just so he can get the whole situation done, so he can get back to his research because there is lies, and he feels like he's bestowed by God knowledge so that he can expose those lies, get to the truth. He wants the truth. Every different, form of theory that we have all has errors in it, and I don't like that. I want to get rid of those errors. And so it makes sense that, yes, when it comes to reading and writing, he doesn't want people to, spread falsities. When it comes to the whole situation with somebody taking his work, he may have had falsities in it that he didn't finish first, and he hates that. But that also plays into why he wants his research burned if he doesn't finish it. He told Oxy, burn my stuff if I don't finish it. Probably because he doesn't want errors to be posted under his name. Like, all this stuff is so cool. I love this stuff. I love this stuff so much. Anyways, let's get into the episode proper, opening up with, again, Badeni confronting Oxy, willing to use the shed for his research because he doesn't want to do it at the church. Makes sense. Again, he's going to be doing research of things that are going to be, well, after this episode, I kind of wonder if it's because he doesn't want to be interrupted. He wants to do his research in the shed because this guy, Grabowski, keeps interrupting him. So he's like, I want to research here. That way I'm away from everybody. But yes, it could be because he doesn't want, Grabowski or anybody else to see that he's researching things that will flag him as a heretic. But either way, he finds out that Oxy is learning how to read and write. Apparently, Yolanta is training him, which makes sense. I think after their conversation, she probably would have helped him. But yeah, that's where we get into that conversation about Badeni not liking the idea of Oxy being trained in how to do reading and writing. Like, why is Yolanta teaching a commoner, a peasant, about this? This is not right. And again, the immediate thought that comes into a person's head for somebody that is looking back in time, obviously we see that, yes, the keeping of reading and writing away from the commoner was a way of controlling people. So they don't see the truth, they don't look into things. There was a side of it as well that a lot of people did not want the commoner to read and write, similar to what Badeni is saying here, that they didn't want people to read it and interpret the word wrong. So if somebody were to look into the scriptures and interpret it wrong, they could teach falsities and it would ruin everything. So there was a positive side of it, but yes, there was obviously a side of it of wanting control. Because if people have their own thoughts, if they have their own knowledge, if they research them themselves, they will expose things incorrectly and they will cause chaos. They want to keep order. So yeah, there's multiple sides of it, but Badeni, especially right here, again, based on everything that we know about his character so far, he doesn't like falsities. And so that's why he says right here that it should be kept to specific people. They have to be educated. They have to be knowledgeable. Otherwise, they'll write something incorrectly, and then that will be passed on to other people, and it will lead them astray. And again, keep in a mindset of him who is, in our first introduction of him, he didn't like those errors. Everything we have built our theories on is full of these errors that can't be proven. So we just make up stuff, or we try to explain it in some way to make it truth. That's not what he wants. He wants absolute truth. I think that's the thing to keep in mind with Badeni's character is everything so far has been portrayed This is somebody that just likes absolute truth. And he doesn't like the idea of spreading falsities, incorrect things. Yes, there's a little bit in there where it talks about the idea of being endowed, this idea that he feels like you do have to be sort of gifted in a way, which does, again, play into his mindset that he believes that he's been blessed by God to seek this truth. God has given me this mission that I find the truth. That's what he gave me. All this knowledge and this ability to kind of seek through all this information was from God to find truth. So again, it's one of those things where, yes, admittedly, when I watched this episode and got to that part, I'm like, God dang, Badeni, really? You're playing that whole thing? But again, if you think about his character, he's not in the inner circles of the church. This isn't somebody that has been told at some point by the Pope himself, hey, the truth is that we're trying to keep knowledge from the commoners so they don't rise up and they cause chaos. No, this is a person that's sort of outside of the circles. He's somebody that is pushing against the cloth, so to speak. He is somebody that is trying to save the church. Again, in that moment where he opened that book in front of his professor or whatever, the guy's like, don't do that or you're going to be punished. You're going to be seen as a heretic. He's like, but the church is in trouble. There is falsities here. There's lies here. And once they discover the truth, these outsiders, these heretics, once they figure out the truth, we're done. They're advancing past us. That's not good. And again, this is because Badeni has the knowledge of all these different people that had been branded heretics who had all these theories that actually made more sense. So he doesn't like the idea of the falsities. He wants to save the truth. It puts him in sort of in that middle area where he's not a heretic. He could be branded a heretic, but he's not a heretic. But he's not also like this devoted person to keeping to the structure the church has established. He's an outsider. He's pushing against the mold. And I like him being in that position because it makes him, yes, in some ways, say things that are questionable to today's standards. But at the same time, it also puts him in a position where he can actually see that there's positivity here. And again, I think that comes into whenever, like this episode today, is him getting excited because he discovers something and he's praising to God. Like, thank you, you gave me this inspiration. He's punching the wall. Like, yes, I figured something out. Keep to this. It's cool stuff. I love it. But yes, obviously, I think the thing that blows up in his face is that, yes, he's like, it doesn't matter, whatever. I don't want to think too much on it. It's bugging me. He's like, I don't even want to try to figure out why you're trying to do this. Because, yes, Oxy's like, yeah, I want to write. Because I want to write a journal about, everything that's happened up until now. He wants to write a diary about what's been happening. And I think that's really obviously what triggers later on is that when Badeni finally does look at his book, he obviously discovers there's something really good in here. Now, it doesn't say specifically what he wrote, but I think it's twofold. One is obviously he's doing a diary, and Oxy is going out and giving his stuff to these peasants. He's going out there and giving his coins. Like, he gives people his coin, even though he doesn't have much coin. He's giving people his food. What's with this guy? It doesn't make any sense to me. I told him it's not going to get him to heaven. Like, it's not going to help him at all. Why does he keep doing it? But then he discovers something in the writing. Now, the only thing that we see indication of is that he sees that one of these individuals is important somehow. So we do see Badeni goes out to see one of these gentlemen and says that he wants to, you know this guy with his, tie up. He's going to keep bringing you bread. That's fine. But I want something in return. He's literally stealing a favor from somebody that Oxy is helping out, which is kind of, that is a dick move. That is a really dick move. He's like, I don't need anything from you. I just need what's up here. So what I'm thinking, my assumption here is it's probably that this guy that Oxy has been giving bread to and coin to possibly is a mathematician. He doesn't seem like he's very clear with his words, so I don't think that the guy is like a scientist or anything like that. But I want to think that he's probably somebody that is naturally gifted with mathematics. Or maybe he might have been possibly somebody that was an accountant for somebody that was a noble, and maybe he just fell. So my assumption here is that he's probably, because it talks about how Badeni gets this discovery, and he starts to have to, do all this math. So I'm thinking he's probably had this guy do some math for him, and Oxy helped him find that person through his writing. So it's like one of those cool things, like, yeah, he wants to say that I'm going to burn everything that you write, but in actuality, he's utilizing what he wrote. I thought at first that Oxy was doing, he may have observed something that Badeni missed, but it doesn't seem like it's hitting at that yet. I mean, he does figure it out. He does have his model done, and he might reveal that, yes, you wrote something that clicked for me, but it seems like that was mostly based on the whole idea of looking into the ellipticals. So we'll see. But it was cool. Like, his idea of like, don't write stuff, I'm going to burn it. And then he ends up reading it all. He's reading it on a regular basis. But I mean, Badeni does have a good point here in that the idea that Oxy is writing all this stuff, he's basically writing all of their path and everything they're doing. And if somebody gets that writing, it's a whole witness account of everything they're doing. So it's like, literally, you're going to have us all burnt to the stake because you're writing an entire layout of everything we've done and day by day processes. And you're probably going to pull in Jolenta to it as well. It is technically does make sense that it's like, dude, don't write this stuff down. But no, that's when we jump over to Grabowski, and he's hanging out with some kids that want to know more about rainbows. That gets into talking about different theories and different works of Lucretius, and yes, getting into the idea of share knowledge from Badeni. And that gets into later on where he does run into a gentleman that does say that Badeni told him why he has scars on his face. And I thought at first this was going to be a lie, because I assumed the scars were also caused by when he got, messed up for reading that book. But no, apparently that was just his eye, obviously. But additionally, later on, apparently he worked with somebody who stole his work, and they got into a duel, and apparently he got harmed while fighting the guy. And obviously, since he's alive, he won. And again, that gets into that really interesting aspect where Grabowski's trying to figure out why Badeni would still seek knowledge, despite the fact that in doing that process, somebody stole his work and it caused something painful for him. Somebody that he was close to stole his work, and he had to kill him in a duel. And that could be something that would scar him enough that he wouldn't want to continue to do research. But no, again, getting back into Badeni, I was bestowed by God knowledge and the gift to find this. So I'm not going to stop. I need to seek the truth. This is something that I want to do myself. And again, kind of makes me also believe that this might be a reason why he is so driven by the idea of not wanting others to have his works. Why he told Oxy to burn my works if I don't finish it and don't let anybody else have it is probably because he doesn't want anybody else to take his work that's not finished, that might have errors, and it will bestow upon somebody else. He's so like, I don't want anybody to touch my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. Leave my stuff alone. It's mine. Now, here we come into probably the biggest massive question mark of this episode, and that's the fact that Grabowski eventually goes to the library to try to get some more information, or at least find something to research on, probably looking more into this stuff. And then he ends up finding the book that Piast dropped. Apparently, I didn't really catch it at the very first, but yes, apparently this library is within this research institute where Piast is. And so I'm guessing they closed it because he passed away and they're restructuring things, and he couldn't get in there. But again, he finds the book that Piast dropped. Now, this is the troubling thing, because it does seem like Grabowski, I want to know what's in that book. I'm kind of curious as to what is all in that book. Now, we do know that he at least was writing in the book what he found out that day, which was the idea of what happened with Venus. But I'm curious what else is in there. If there's something possibly else in there that might point him towards the direction of Badeni, because that's obviously going to cause a problem. I'm kind of more wondering if this is going to stray it to the idea of Grabowski is now getting a little bit of a taste of heretical ideas and theories, and that might trigger some sort of inner scholar within him to seek that knowledge, and he might start driving that direction, and eventually that might cross roads with Badeni. Or possibly, despite the fact that how hard Badeni is trying to keep himself in check and keep all the information hidden that he's doing, that it's not so much that it's going to be that he gets caught by the Inquisitors, but that Grabowski gets caught. Grabowski is going to look into this information from Piast. It's going to give him heretical ideas, and then he's going to research into that. And it might possibly be that Piast wrote some stuff about what Badeni's looking into, and then that Grabowski gets caught by the Inquisitors. And that might actually be one of those things where they go to question Badeni, and he's going to freak out thinking they caught him, and that might get him to misstep. But it could also be the idea that they just come after Grabowski, and while they're looking at Grabowski, they end up finding that something that Badeni has. That could be as well. That it's not necessarily that Badeni is their final target, it's Grabowski, but they end up finding him anyways, which that'll suck. That'll, of course, really suck. But we'll see. But no, that's when we get the news that the Piast has gone to heaven and that he wants him to dig a tunnel from the church to the shed, which I was like, wow, it just casually drops that. Hey, I need you to dig a really long tunnel. Sure, okay, I'll do that for you. But in return, I want some more bread. I like the fact that he's like, you're very shrewd for wanting to ask a favor when I'm in a bad mood. It's like, dude, Oxy is a duelist. He has plenty of courage and shrewdness. He's going to be able to pull that off. But no, that's when Badeni gets his research breakthrough, which is kind of something that I was kind of curious about. Because, again, they keep writing down the current model as being flat. And I was kind of curious at what point they're going to finally break away from that, or at least maybe if Badeni himself is going to break past that idea, the idea that everything is just in a flat, like it's so funny because their current model is the idea that we're the center of the universe, and that theory is always kind of encapsulated in this model, but yet he keeps keeping the model stuck on this 2D plane, that everything is a perfect circle, but it's flat. Like it's this flat circular motion that everything is moving based off of. And so I thought that he was going to break through the idea that they are sort of in this different plane. Like they're not a flat surface of orbit, that many of them are breaking away from it in different axes. But no, again, he's looking into like the elliptical idea, and the idea that everything is not like perfect circles, but actually in some cases just mostly ovals. Not massive ovals. It's not like it's stretching out a lot, but it's not a perfect circle. It's more like an oval. And that's what he's kind of figuring out here. I'm not sure exactly why he got that idea from the two anchor points. I guess I can kind of see it, again, basing it on the perspective of Earth, looking at what they're observing from Earth itself. But either way, in the end, what it comes down to is he has to basically take all this math from current observations from Earth to essentially figure out what that elliptical is, what that measurement of distance is, that oval shape is, which is a massive amount of, that's a massive amount of math to do. So it does make sense, again, to my theory that Oxy possibly found somebody that is really good at math, and Badeni is going to give him all those measurements to try to figure that out, to possibly give him the full layout of what's going on. Which apparently he did, because at the very end he says that he's done. He's done. Apparently he's done. So we're it seems pretty early. We're only like 10 episodes in. We have 25 episodes to work with. I'm not sure if he's going to have a full layout of that, but we'll see. It does lead me to a belief that this might actually turn to one of those cases where Badeni does figure it all out, but then he is not able to get it out before he dies. That I wonder right now what we're going to go into based on the end of the episode is the idea that Badeni and them are going to get caught by the Inquisitors. We're possibly going to get more focus on the Inquisitors right now, get more into them, which is fantastic, by the way. I've been waiting to get into Novak for a while now, and this is a surefire sign that we might actually just deep dive into Novak right now. Get the perspective of the Inquisitors for a little bit, maybe Novak training them, then eventually looking into possibly his daughter, possibly Grabowski, and then eventually leading to Badeni. And at that point, I wonder if Badeni is going to get taken out by this whole situation, and that Oxy is going to take his research and still submit it. I wonder if in the end it's going to turn into Badeni dies and Oxy still submits his research. The story went out of its way to have Badeni say, "Don't submit my work, burn it." And I wonder if it's going to turn into a thing because he said that Oxy is going to not do that. I think Oxy will probably, struggle with it for a while, but I think he'll end up submitting it. But yeah, I do love the fact that Badeni, when he discovered that, he immediately goes outside and pukes. Again, he has to puke all of his preconceived notions out, get it all of his system. That's going to be like a common thing he does. Whenever you figure something out, puke everything else out, replace it with something new, punch in the wall. He's so happy. I loved it. I guess the idea that him punching the wall could actually be a repentance as well, because he used to do that all the time. Whenever he would step out of line, they would take him in that room and they would just lash him like crazy, stay in line. He might be doing that stuff out of habit. He pukes out all the wrong thinkings he has, and then he's harming himself for the sake of penance, as a way of correcting his ways. I don't know. It seems like it could be going that direction, but we'll see. But yeah, the episode wraps up with the bishop showing up and getting all the Inquisitors hyped up. It kind of implied the idea that the kids kind of came in there, they just kind of freshly graduated. They're becoming Inquisitors, but it doesn't seem like they're taking their job seriously. But it seems like based on what the bishop tells them, it kind of gets them in the mindset of, I got to take this seriously. Obviously, what the bishop told them, which again is getting into the idea of, everything was chaos once Rome fell. People lost a lot of people who they cherished. Everything was in chaos, but the church was the one thing that kind of kept everybody together, brought everybody together. And there's still some people that don't like the idea that the church exists. There's still people that are still, seeking to create chaos and destruction, and they're making people sway. And that's what we're here for. And yes, to the mindset of an Inquisitor at that time is going to see that and hear that knowledge and go, yeah, I love what we have right here. Everything is in order. What we don't know, we've never experienced that chaos that once was, but I kind of don't want that to be. So I'm going to be more driven to the idea of, yes, following what this church is telling me is keeping order. I've only known order by the church. I'm obviously going to believe that I need to protect that order, and it's going to drive the Inquisitors to want to keep that order. Again, it's one of those things where you kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of the individual at the time. That makes sense why they would be so driven to, yes, call people out, save them from the devils that are trying to sway them from this order and nicety that we have in the church. And they have the best teacher, Kendra Suda. They have the best teacher out there, Kendra Suda. I didn't really look at it, but I think he was actually for once not covered in blood. Usually when we always see Novak, he's got bloodstains on his sleeves. And I think that was the one time that he wasn't covered in bloodstains. Yeah. Yep, he's not covered in bloodstains. The one time he's like, yep, I got to make sure that I get all cleaned up before I go into the church. Usually he's always covered in blood. Very interesting. Anyways, that's my thoughts on episode 10. Really good episode. Talked way too much. Hope you enjoyed the video for all those that actually hung around. But thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hit the like button down there if you did. Again, join our Discord if you want to talk about Ore. We have a channel there. Until next time, y'all take care.